To make my coffin, I'm going to be using these rather large pieces of cardboard, which come from mattresses. I've trimmed down my cardboard to get me the size that I'm looking for, and I'm going to be making a 6-foot coffin. And the measurements that I'm using to get it into proportion is my head size is going to be 20 centimeters. Now when you work out the proportion of the body, the size of the body is 8 heads, so you're measuring 20 centimeters for each portion, which gives you a total of 160 centimeters. But because I don't want the head right up on the top, I'm actually going to be adding an extra 20 centimeters to go down, so that where the head is located at the 20 centimeter mark, that's where I'm going to be doing the positioning for the clock, so that the skeleton head can stick out through there. So I'm just going to measure that all up now. Because I'm working on such a big piece, I'm going to actually show you what I'm actually doing on this small piece, and then you just have to increase the size. So now normally the body is 8, so we're doing like, that's the head, and then we're just going down just 2, that's just roughly what it is. And from the head to the shoulders, you're going out by 2, 1 head on each side, like that. Coming down from the shoulder, you're going to go down 3 heads, so that you're lining up. So it's going from there, that's 1, 2, 3. So we're just putting 3 lines in, like, or circles, like that. Now the legs are 2 heads apart, so if you do another one on that side, so your legs are, if you take the center, like that. So all I'm doing is I'm working out that shape, and from the top of the head, as I said, I've got the extra 20 centimeters that I'm going at the top, so I'm doing a 20 centimeter mark, that will go like that, and then it's coming down to the shoulders. So I'm just drawing a line to the shoulders, like that, which is the largest point on the body, and then we're going to just go from that point down to the feet by bringing the line down like that. And that's what I'm going to be doing to cut out the coffin on the very big piece of cardboard, which you won't be able to see. So follow your sizes that you want. So each one of my heads that I'm working on is 20 centimeters. So I've got 20 centimeters and an extra 20 centimeters at the top. So the total distance from my top to the bottom is 180 centimeters, which is 6 feet. And then the other measurement that I've got is from the mark where I've marked in the 20 centimeters, I'm actually adding an extra 20 centimeters on the top, so that I can fold that over to stand up to make a 20 centimeter high coffin. So I'm adding 20 centimeters at the top and an extra 20 centimeters at the bottom. So in total, the piece of cardboard that I'm using is 220 centimeters. I have my cardboard down, and I've gone for a width of 67 centimeters, and I'm just going to be using the full 240 centimeter length of my piece of cardboard, and I'm painting it black. I've got my coffin all marked out on the floor, and instead of going for a 20 centimeter turnover, I can only go for a 13 centimeter turnover, because that's the shortest point. Otherwise I've got to add cardboard. So I'm going to just score all along these lines now, and then cut 13 centimeters apart like that, so I can bend them all up to make the base of the coffin. When you're cutting, always cut on the opposite side to where you actually need, so that in case you go skew, you're not going into your project. I've got my box scored, and it's all cut out now completely, and where it crosses over or joins here at the top, I've cut it straight down, so that when I bend the piece up, it closes up nicely. But I'm not going to be joining it all together at the moment, so now that it's all scored and cut out, I'm going to paint the whole thing black. My paint is all dry on my coffin, and now I'm going to be flipping it over. I'm not actually going to be painting the entire back of it. However, where my crease line is here for my folds, I'm going to be painting the sides of it and then going in about 5 centimeters, and I'm going to try and paint it in to make it look like mahogany. You can just paint this brown, but I'm going to be using pillar box red, yellow and black, because I want to get a variety of different shades of brown. So all I'm doing is I'm taking some of the colours and just blobbing them on in random places. And then I'm taking a larger brush and I'm just going to blend the colours all together to give me like a burgundy brownish colour. And as you can see, it gives you a variety of different shades when you do it this way. That's all I'm going to be doing on the entire box. So that's a variety of colours that I'm managing to achieve by doing it this way. You don't have to paint everywhere, all the sides and that, but I find it easier to just do it all in one go. And now we're going to take some hot glue and glue it all together. Before you glue anything together, take some clothes pegs and just peg it so that you've got roughly an idea of where you're actually going to be gluing. And I've put some weights in the top part of my box because it's a little bit warped, so that's just a stabilizer, so hopefully the glue will hold it nice and straight. To make the lid, what I've done is I've flipped the coffin over and I'm going to just trace around it on a spare piece of cardboard so it fits, because sometimes if you measure it, it's not quite the same as what the coffin is when you've put it all together. I've traced all around it, and now I'm just going to be using an MT cutter or an X-Acto knife to cut the whole shape out, and then I'm going to paint it in the exact same way that I painted the sides of the box. I've got the lid cut out, and my box is not quite perfect, so it's got these little divots in it, which I'm just going to be using some hot glue to fix that. And as I said before, we're going to paint it exactly the same, so black on the one side, and then before we paint this one, I'm going to actually be putting my rope on. To decorate the box, I'm going to just be using this nylon rope, and I'm going to be gluing it onto the box, going in by 3 centimeters, and I'm going to glue it all the way around the whole box. The width of my ruler is exactly 3 centimeters, so all I'm doing is I'm placing the ruler along the line and taking my glue gun and just running it along the ruler like that, so I can get a nice straight line, and then I'm pulling the cord tight so that it's got a nice straight finish to it. Just like that. So that my corners are the same, I've left a little bit of a gap there because that corner is rounded, so all my corners are rounded. And now I'm just going to take some glue and glue that one into the corner so it's the same shape. All my rope is glued on, and now I'm just going to take some of the black paint and paint the rope black. I bought this bag of bones last year for Halloween. I haven't actually used them, so I'm going to be taking the skull out of here and using that for this particular decoration. I bought a sheet of these Roman numeral stickers, which are 2 centimeters in height, and what I've done is I've just cut out some templates so that I can try and work out how big I want my circles to be. So the first circle on this one, which is the cardboard, is 15.5 centimeters from the radius, and that makes the skull sit quite nicely inside with the Roman numerals that are going to be going around. So I've got a 3 centimeter gap on the side here so that the Roman numerals will sit quite nicely on there like that. And the center circle, the radius is 10.5 centimeters. And those are the 2 circles that I'm going to be using. And those measurements are because my skull's height is 17 centimeters, so it fits quite nicely. So you'll have to work out what size circles you would like to use so that your skull will fit in properly. I've traced my circle onto my piece of cardboard, and from where I've glued the rope on to the top of the circle is 17.5 centimeters, and the distance from the side to the rope on that straight line is 7 centimeters on each side. And now I'm just going to paint that in gold. I'm using this rich gold metallic finish, and I'm going to be using a number 12 flat brush to just go around the edges. I've traced the other template out here, so I've got my inner circle, and I'm going to be cutting that one out. Before I cut my circle out, I'm going to be painting it exactly the same as the other one using the number 12 flat brush and just going round, tracing around that penciled circle. And the reference video that I'm working off, the coffin has got 8 little studs on it. I've got a bag of these snap-on screw caps which I'm going to be using to simulate the bolts. So with these ones, they've got the cap and then they've got this little insert that goes inside, so you've got to put it in like that and then snap it closed. It's quite a challenge to snap them closed, so I find if you take a pair of pliers and just snap it in, it works better and it saves your fingers. So just like that, and then I'm going to be gluing those onto the coffin along the sides. I'm just measuring from the bottom to where the piece is actually going to be going on, 105 centimeters. So what I'm doing is I'm just measuring up at 35 centimeters, and that's where one of the studs will go. So at 35, and then at 70, and the next one at 105, which is there. So it's 10 centimeters below the point that comes out like that. Using the same gold and the same flat brush that we used for the circles over there, I'm just going to be painting over the cord, so just the top of the cord, just like that, all the way around with the whole coffin. I don't want to paint in on the sides or in any of the grooves, I just want it to look like that. And I'm also just touching the top of the buttons like that with the gold. Unfortunately, because the box was not big enough for the size of my skull, I only had 13 centimeters on the actual box of the base to make the coffin, and the skull is 17 centimeters. So what I'm doing now is I'm just using 2 different size rulers. So I've got a 3 centimeter ruler, and I'm putting that on and scoring a line down, and then I'm taking a 2.5 centimeter ruler and putting that down. I'm putting the 3 centimeter ruler next to that and scoring a line there. So I'm going 3, 5.5, 3, 5.5, and then the last one will be 3. Then I'm going to be cutting it off over there. So place your ruler on the score line and then just bend the cardboard so that you get a nice crisp bend to it. And then collapse the cardboard. And where the box has got a fold where my other fold line is, I've just cut a spare piece of cardboard, and I'm going to be gluing that on so that it can keep it straight, so that it only folds on my fold line that I've made. And just make enough pieces like that so that they can go around the coffin lid. I'm using hot glue to glue these together. And then you should have a piece that looks like that, which we'll be gluing on standing with the 5 centimetre tool, so that the 3 centimetre will rest on the bottom coffin, so that I don't have big holes like this sticking out on the edges, because if I join the boxes like that, there's going to be that big hole. So what I'm doing is I'm lining the boxes up like that, one on top of the other in position, and I'm going to mark just along the line where the box crosses over here, so just like that, so that I can cut this particular one so that that one can just slot into there. So I've marked it like that, and I'm going to be cutting just along that line and there, and then just straight down on that side. I've cut the piece out, and as you can see, when you place it into position, the other one just slots in like that, so it closes both the corners off. And I'm doing that on all the corners. To do the angle that is going like that with the box, what I'm doing is I'm just taking my ruler and drawing a line the same width as what the box, that box is, and I've taken it past the center line, which is where it turns over, just marking that straight, and then doing another line on this side. So that's the angle that we're trying to get. So what I've done is I've taken that line and gone right across, and the other one to go right across as well, and where they cross over just there, I'm taking that point and going to the center line over there, and I'm going to cut that little triangle out so that it will bend to make the angle that we need. I've cut the angle out on my piece of cardboard, and there you can see it just closes like that, which will be going over there, and then it lines up exactly on the box like that. To join my pieces together like that, I'm just taking a spare piece of cardboard and placing it in there and gluing that so that this piece will stick nicely to the other one. I've glued all my pieces on, and now I'm going to be painting it. So on the inside here and on the sides over here, I'm going to be painting that all black, and on the sides this side, they're all going to be painted the same colour brown as I've painted the top and the bottom. To be working on the front decorations, so I've got just 3 petals that are overlapping each other like that with a little circle, and the top part of the design is quite large, so it sort of like weaves around like a snake, so I'm just going to be drawing it in a bit like that. I don't know if you can see that. So we've got pretty much just a big oval at the top, and then I'm putting another one just at the bottom here. Like that. And then the last one will go at the bottom here, which is a lot smaller. And then it's got a wee tail that comes off the side. like that. And then I'm just going to paint that all in gold, and going close up, it's got like little leaves that come off the sides all the way down like that, which I'm going to be putting in as well. And in the center here we've got a little square with a bit of an hourglass going through it like that. To paint the design on, I'm using this rich gold metallic finish paint, and I'm going to be painting it with a size 6 flat brush. I've got the whole design drawn on, and now I'm just going to paint that. To do the leaves, I'm taking my paintbrush and I'm just holding it straight flat like that, and then coming out, and as you come out you just twist your paintbrush and it'll give you a nice little leaf. Pressing down and just twist. You can put the leaves as close or as far apart as you want, depending on how many leaves you want. So something like that, and then do the other side as well, and then do the leaves on all the pieces like that. I find the faster that you do them, the nicer it is. So if you just keep going and just wiggling your brush quite fast, you get rather nice little leaves that go like that. And the other decoration that it's got in it is just pretty much a big X with legs on it, and then of course the hourglass. To do these little lines on the side here, I've got a really small round brush which I'm going to be using. I've got all the small leaves in place, and now I'm going to be adding some random larger leaves in certain positions, so just making it so that it looks a little bit bigger. So just exactly the same with doing the smaller leaf, taking your brush and then just going out, and you can do them whatever shape that you want. So we're just adding a few bigger ones now. I'm working on the base of the coffin while I wait for the paint to dry, so we're doing exactly the same thing by making the supports. This time I'm making them all 3 centimeters, and then you need 5 by 3, and then you're going to glue them all together so you've got your little supports like that. And just make enough to go around your whole coffin. For the corners, I'm not going to worry too much about making a neat corner because there's cardboard that comes around it as well. All I'm going to be doing is cutting it according to the shape of the coffin. However, when it comes to this corner here, I'm going to be doing it in exactly the same way as we did for the top piece. And I'm joining the cardboard supports in exactly the same way that we did at the bottom, by taking the little piece of cardboard, putting it in there, gluing it on, and then sliding the other piece over that. Now all you have to do is glue your cardboard onto the very top like that. I've got all my pieces glued in place, and now I'm going to be painting them with Mars Black. For my clock window, I'm using the inside window of an old Christmas cracker box, and I'm going to be cutting that to size. I've cut it so that it fits just inside here, and I'm going to be gluing that down with some hot glue. Now, before you glue the whole thing, first do a small test to see whether the hot glue is actually going to melt any of your plastic. So I'm just going to glue that down. I've got a sheet of stickers which have got the Roman numerals on, so they've got the plain ones like that, but I'm actually going to be using these fancy ones to put on the face. So I've glued my piece of plastic in, and now I'm going to be placing the numbers onto my clock face. And they're extremely finicky to work with. I'm actually having to use a pin and a pair of tweezers to get these out, and you've got to be really, really careful, because when you get them out, you get these pieces that come out as well and get stuck to it. So a very finicky job this is. I've placed the 12, the 3, 6 and 9 in position, and now I'm going to be placing the others in the spaces. I've placed all my numbers on in the same rotation as the reference picture I'm working off, which all the bottom numbers here are all upside down. So I've done it exactly the same. I've got some scrap fabric which I'm going to be cutting 2 pieces 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. I'm using one of the large skewers for this, and I'm cutting that one 2 pieces as well at 10 centimeters each. So I'm just going to measure one of them and use that as a template for the next one. I'm just using a pair of wire cutters to cut that. It gives it quite a nice clean finish on that. Then place your stick in the middle of your material and then just fold it over so that you've got the center point. I'm using hot glue to just glue the stick in. Once you've got the glue stuck to the back of your fabric, just take some more glue and seal this part up. So you just close that up and press that down so it's nice and tight in there, like that. Then I've got a needle which I've threaded, and it's got 4 strands of cotton in there, sewing thread, and then I'm just going to put some tacking stitches all the way along the bottom here under the stick, and then do both of them exactly the same. I've got my bag of bones. And as you can see, there's not an awful lot of them, but we do have a nice skull and a bit of spine, two of the same feet, two of the same hands, and just some random bones. So I'm going to try and arrange it so that it looks like a body. So I've set the bones up like that. And to compensate for the lack of the rib cage and all the other bones, I'm just going to be using some wadding. I'm not using too much of the wadding, so I've just put a wee bit on like that. And then I'm going to glue the bones into place. Before you glue the bones into place, just make sure that your skull is in the position that you want it to be in. I've got all my pieces glued into place. The only things that I'm not gluing in are the feet, which will be the last thing that I do, because I've still got to mount it on my piece of board. I've got this old clock which I'm not using anymore, so I'm just going to be taking the hands and then spray painting them gold. To get the hands off the clock, all you have to do is just give it a bit of a tug to pull this small pin out of the clock mechanism, and then they just fall off. From where the coffin angles like that, I'm going down 10 centimeters and I'm going to be gluing my little hinges on. So when you glue them on, just make sure that the little piece of wood is sticking over so that it will be able to open nicely. And the next one, I'm going about 15 centimeters. It depends on how far you want to go. So I'm doing 15 centimeters from the bottom and putting the other one there. And I'm just going to glue them on with some hot glue. Just place the lid on top, and now I'm going to be gluing the hinge to the top piece as well. And then just check to see that you've glued it all nicely and it's opening quite nicely, so it's all in place. To make the latch, I'm using a spare piece of EVA foam, which is just a yoga mat, and I'm marking in 5 centimeters and 5 centimeters at the bottom as well, and I'm going down by 14 centimeters, and then I'm going up by 2.5 centimeters and in by 2.5 centimeters to get the middle point, and then I'm just tapering them both off, and then I'm going to cut them out and paint these all Mars black. Just to put a little bit of detail on it, I've gone in by 0.5 centimeter all the way around the whole piece, and I'm going to take a scalpel or an X-Acto knife and just score it very, very lightly so that it just cuts through the top surface, and then I'm going to use a heat gun to expand the gap. I've got a scrap piece of wood which is 34 centimeters by 45 centimeters, which is what I'm going to be using for the base, and I'm just going to be painting it the same color as the whole coffin, so the brown color. I've got 2 pieces of scrap wood which I've just drilled pallet holes in and just placed the screws in, and now I'm going to screw those to the bottom, which are going to be screwed onto the base. I've screwed and glued the pieces of wood underneath the coffin, and I've also put a piece of wood on the inside and screwed that through the wood to the base piece of wood here. Because of the weight of the coffin, you're also going to have to attach it to the base and put a strap across to hold it upright. I've painted both sides of it black, and as you can see, heating it makes the gap a wee bit bigger. And now what I'm doing is I'm just taking a wee sponge, and I'm going to be sponging on some of this rich gold metallic finish. So just dab your sponge and then take most of it off, and then just dab it like that so you can get a nice weathered look. I've spray painted my little hands for my clock, and the excess residue that is the overspray, I'm going to be cutting a small circle out to just fit around there so that I can glue it to the plastic, because this little piece has got a little tiny point on it which I won't be able to glue onto the plastic, so that's why I'm doing it like that. My little piece is dry, and I've cut 2 strips of velcros which are 5 centimeters each, and I'm just going to be gluing those on with some hot glue. And now I can glue this whole section onto the coffin, and I'm going to be gluing this down as well, so that's what our little latch will look like. I've glued the side piece on here, and all you have to do now is wait for the glue to dry before you glue this one down, otherwise you'll just pull this piece up. I've painted the inside little piece of wood black, and all the little hinges I've painted as well, and now I can put the feet in. So now I'm just going to glue the hands of the clock onto the plastic like that. I'm just using hot glue to do that. I've got the feet all glued in and everything is completed now. So I've got the lock on, I just put the 2 velcros over there, and so when we close it up, it just closes like that. And there's our whole coffin completed with the clock face and all the paintings, and standing about 6'2" tall.